Somewhere in Malaysia right now, there is a piece of land that is just uh, completely dead.
Like completely barren.
Exactly. Strip mined of its nutrients, compacted into this brutal hardpan, and just baking under an equatorial sun.
Just dead dirt.
Right, dead dirt. But over the next 12 months, this robotic windowless box is going to physically crawl onto that dirt.
Which sounds crazy.
It sounds totally crazy. But it's going to deploy an army of fungi and foraging animals and literally terraform the soil back to a pristine biological state.
Yeah.
And while it's doing that, it's going to sell global AI computing power to pay for the entire operation. Then, once the land is healed, it just packs up and leaves.
I mean, it genuinely sounds like the plot of a hard sci-fi novel, right? Like something about colonizing Mars.
Totally.
But we are looking at the actual, literal operational blueprints for it happening right here on Earth today.
Well, welcome to the deep dive. I'm so glad you're joining us for this one because it completely shatters how we think about the physical footprint of agriculture.
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, the physical footprint of the internet itself, which is a whole other layer.
Right. So today, for you listening, we are exploring this fascinating stack of documents. It's outlining what they call EMF Pillar 3, cultivation and land regeneration.
It's a dense read,
Yeah.
but so worth it.
Very dense. It's the operational playbook of Ecoladang microfarms. They are an agritech operator managed by my datasys SDN BHD out of Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
Right.
And our mission today is to just dissect how they build these highly profitable, AI-driven closed-loop ecosystems, because they treat farming not as an extraction industry, but as well as a nomadic terraforming service.
And that framing right there is critical. I mean, if you look at traditional commercial agriculture, we basically treat it like a mining operation.
Yeah, we really do.
We find a plot of land, we clear-cut the native biology, we pour these massive concrete foundations for silos and processing facilities, and then we engage in a cycle of extraction.
And pulling everything out.
Exactly. We pull nitrogen and phosphorus out of the ground in the form of crops.
Yeah.
And then when the soil inevitably becomes exhausted and just turns into dead dirt, what do?
You prop it up.
Right. We prop it up artificially by pouring synthetic petroleum-based chemicals all over it just to force it to yield a little bit more.
And we leave these permanent scars on the landscape.
Permanent, yeah.
But the foundational philosophy of Ecoladang, and this is detailed right at the top of their documents, which I loved, is entirely inverted.
It really is a 180-degree shift.
They mention this hypothetical question they constantly get from state agencies or like landowners, which is, why do you need 50 hectares of land?
Right, and the standard commercial answer to that question would be, calculating the maximum tonnage of cash crops you can extract from that acreage per quarter.
But their answer is that they are actively looking for the worst, most underutilized, degraded land possible.
They want the damaged goods.
They do, because their goal isn't to take from it. Their goal is to turn it into a pristine, biodiverse food and energy lab and leave it infinitely healthier than they found it.
Which, if you zoom out and look at the macroeconomic picture, is a really rugged survival strategy.
How so?
Well, we are operating in an era defined by rapid topsoil degradation, right? And intense global supply chain volatility.
Well, totally. Everything is fragile right now.
Exactly. So a system that can take dead land, utilize biological waste as a zero-cost input, produce high-value commodities, and actively regenerate the soil that isn't just a feel-good environmental project.
Right. It's not just for optics.
No, it is a highly defensive economic moat. I mean, it is agriculture engineered for an unpredictable future.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Because to understand how you heavily and commercially farm a piece of land without destroying it, we have to look at the literal foundation.
Or rather, the complete lack of one.
Right. If you are listening and picturing a farmhouse or, a traditional barn right now, just erase that from your mind.
Completely different architecture.
Picture something closer to, like, a shipping container crossed with a highly secure server room. They call these modular units agri-shack.
Agri-shacks.
And their entire operation is governed by a strict zero concrete philosophy.
It is an absolute non-negotiable rejection of the most common building material on Earth.
Yeah, let me stop you there because I read that and immediately felt skeptical.
I think everyone does it first.
I mean, farming requires massive, heavy infrastructure, right? You have heavy equipment, thousands of gallons of water, dense storage tanks.
It's a lot of weight.
A ton of weight.
Correct.
And concrete is cheap. It is incredibly stable, and it has been the standard for a century for a reason. So if there is absolutely no concrete, How stable is an agri-shack? And why go to such extreme, complicated lengths to avoid using it?
It is a totally valid concern. I mean, if you are putting hundreds of thousands of dollars of sensitive equipment into a box, it cannot sink into the mud.
Exactly.
But their alternative is actually highly proven. They deploy these agri-shacks on what are known as screw pile foundations.
Like giant metal screws.
Essentially, yes. They are these massive industrial steel screws driven deep into the earth using specialized hydraulic machinery.
Wow.
And they can support immense commercial weight. I mean, they are used in heavy construction and infrastructure projects all the time. But the reason Ecoladang mandates screw piles and completely bans concrete is due to the devastating permanent impact concrete has on the soil ecosystem.
See, I think most of us just picture concrete as a heavy, flat rock, right? That just sits harmlessly on top of the dirt. Like, how destructive is it, really?
Oh, it is catastrophic to the microenvironment.
Really?
Yeah. First is consider the physical aspect. When you pour a heavy concrete slab, you are permanently compacting the earth beneath it.
Okay, that makes sense.
And healthy soil is actually mostly empty space. It is full of microscopic pores that hold oxygen, water, and these vast fungal networks.
Right, it needs to breathe.
Exactly. Compaction crushes that architecture. Then second, there is a chemical problem. Concrete is highly alkaline.
Oh, I didn't even think about the chemistry.
Yeah, over time, it leaches into the surrounding soil and drastically spikes the pH, which effectively sterilizes the local microbiome.
Wow, it just kills everything around it.
It does. And third, you permanently sever the natural hydrology. Rainwater can no longer penetrate that footprint.
So it just runs off the sides.
Right, which forces unnatural high-velocity runoff that erodes the edges of the slab and literally washes away the surrounding topsoil.
So by using screw piles, they avoid all of that. The metal shaft displaces a tiny fraction of the soil.
A fraction of a fraction.
Yeah. Water still flows underneath the agri-shack, the soil still breathes, and the pH remains stable.
Exactly.
And most importantly, when they are done, they just put the hydraulic machine in reverse, unscrew the foundation, and pull it right out.
Right. The farm is 100% mobile. There's zero permanent scar left on the earth.
Which brings us to the core of their nomadic regeneration strategy. This was the concept in the source material that I just found absolutely hypnotic.
That's brilliant.
They detailed this 1-acre terraforming process that plays out over a single season. It is a very deliberate, step-by-step biological intervention for dead dirt.
And the sequence of these steps is critical. You cannot just throw seeds onto compacted dead dirt and expect a miracle.
Right. You can't skip steps.
You have to rebuild the microscopic architecture first.
So let's walk through this process. If you're listening, imagine this harsh, barren acre of land. Step 1 is shielding.
Shielding, yeah.
The very first thing the Ecoladang operators do when they arrive is deploy vast, protective black screening over the barren dirt surrounding the agri-shack.
Right, because you have to consider the geography here. We're talking about Malaysia.
Oh, right.
This is a harsh, equatorial, tropical environment.
Mm-hmm.
When soil has been degraded and stripped of its natural plant canopy, it is fully exposed to intense UV radiation.
It just gets blasted by the sun.
Exactly. The sun literally bakes the life out of the topsoil. It evaporates any residual moisture and incinerates the delicate microbiome.
It's basically an oven.
Precisely. So that black screen acts as an immediate artificial forest canopy.
Just to give it a break.
Right. It instantly drops the ambient ground temperature, reduces wind evaporation, and creates this humid, protected microclimate where biology can actually survive long enough to reestablish itself.
Wow. Okay, so once the shield is up, we move to step 2, which the sources describe as creating the microscopic sponge.
Yes, sponge. This is key.
So the operators take carbonized biochar and activated carbon, and they till it directly into this newly shaded dirt. Now, the documents mention they get this biochar from their own biomass waste pyrolysis operations.
Right.
Can you break down what pyrolysis actually is? Because honestly, it sounds like they are just burning trash and throwing the ashes in the dirt.
I know, it really sounds like that. But it is a very different chemical process than burning.
Okay, how so?
Pyrolysis is the process of superheating organic waste, like leftover agricultural stalks or husks, in a specialized chamber that contains absolutely zero oxygen.
Zero oxygen.
None. Because if you just light organic matter on fire in the open air, the carbon binds with oxygen and floats away as carbon dioxide, right?
Right, and you're just left with ash.
Exactly, a tiny amount of mineral ash. But if you apply intense heat without oxygen, the material cannot combust.
Because fire needs oxygen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Instead, the complex organic molecules thermally decompose. Everything burns away except the pure underlying carbon structure.
So you are left with this incredibly pure, highly porous carbon lattice.
Yes. And at a microscopic level, that biochar looks like a highly complex coral reef.
Oh, wow.
It is full of cavernous pores and tunnels. When you physically till that pure carbon into degraded, compacted dirt, you are structurally altering the Earth.
You're rebuilding the architecture.
You are injecting millions of tiny, indestructible underground reservoirs.
And that is the sponge effect.
Right. Now, when it rains in Malaysia, that water doesn't just hit the hard pan and cause a flash flood.
It actually sinks in.
It seeps into the earth and gets physically trapped inside the microscopic pores of the biochar. It holds the moisture there, safe from evaporation.
That's incredible.
And furthermore, those microscopic caverns become the perfect protected housing for beneficial soil bacteria and fungal networks. You are basically giving the microbiome a fortified city to live in.
Which perfectly sets the stage for step 3, biological fertilization.
Yes, bring in the animals.
Right. The ground is shaded, the biochar sponge is in the dirt, waiting. Now, they introduced the managed livestock. Specifically, the documents mention chickens and rabbits.
Yep.
And the operators allow them to graze and forage directly over this shielded biochar-infused acre.
Because now the environment can actually capture the value those animals provide.
Exactly. The chickens and rabbits are acting as biological processors. They are eating forage and dropping highly bioavailable, nitrogen-rich manure all over the plot.
And in traditional degraded soil, that manure would just bake in the sun, release its nitrogen into the air as ammonia gas, or just wash away in the next rainstorm.
Right. But here, the soil is shaded, it's cool, and it's porous. That manure washes straight into the biochar sponge.
Straight into those coral reefs.
Yes. It immediately feeds the microbes living inside that carbon lattice. And those microbes break down the manure and lock the nitrogen into the soil chemistry. You are effectively jump-starting the entire nitrogen cycle of a healthy ecosystem in a matter of weeks.
It is so fast when you engineer it right.
And this leads to what I think is the most profound visualization in the entire document. The operators run this process, the shade, the sponge, the foraging animals, for roughly a year.
A full cycle, yeah.
And the sources state that after 1 year, this previously dead, sterile dirt is now, quote, teeming with a healthy microbiome. It is rich, dark, living soil again.
Mission accomplished.
Right. And then they don't plant a permanent field of corn. They don't build a farmhouse. They physically pick up the entire agri-shack, unscrew the foundation, pack up the screens, and move the entire operation exactly 1 acre over.
And do it again.
And they start the healing process on the next patch of dead dirt.
They secure their lease on the land by saving the land. It is a rolling mechanical wave of ecological regeneration.
You know, it made me think of a biological scab.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, like when you scrape your knee, a scab forms over the raw tissue, right? It shields the wound from the harsh outside environment, and it provides a safe, moist microclimate underneath for the white blood cells to rebuild the skin.
That's very true.
And once the tissue is fully healed, the scab just falls off. The agri-shack is essentially a mobile, robotic scab for the earth.
That is a phenomenal analogy.
It sits on a wounded piece of land, deploys its shields and its biological tools, heals the dirt, and then literally crawls over to heal the next scrape.
It's perfect. But we do have to remember the business reality here, too.
Right, this isn't a charity.
Exactly. While this scab is sitting there healing the land, it is simultaneously functioning as an ultra-dense, highly profitable commercial farm. The ecological healing is almost a byproduct of their commercial production cycle.
Which is the perfect pivot, because we have this nomadic scab moving across the landscape, but what exactly is inside this magic box?
Let's open it up.
Right, if it takes all this effort to move it around, it has to be producing something incredibly valuable to justify the logistics.
And the documents make it very clear that the agri-shack is not just some generic, one-size-fits-all shipping container.
It's not just a tin can.
No, it is a highly flexible architectural framework that comes in different deployment modes. It depends entirely on the franchise operator's capital budget and the physical constraints of the land they are leasing.
Okay, so the sources outline 2 primary deployment modes. The first is what they call the standalone microfarm.
Microfarm, yeah.
This is incredibly compact. We are talking about a 300-square-foot unit. The text notes this is heavily utilized in urban environments or highly space-constrained areas, and it functions as a 100% enclosed indoor cultivation facility.
And to put that in perspective for you, 300 square feet is essentially the size of a single-car garage.
Or a very, very tight studio apartment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The fact that an operator can run a commercially viable, profitable agricultural enterprise within that footprint, it speaks volumes about the extreme spatial density of their systems. Every cubic inch must be optimized.
It has to be. But then you have the second mode, which is where the scale really opens up. They call this the acreage command hub.
Right, the hub.
This involves larger units, starting around 800 square feet and scaling up to manage a full acre of outdoor production. In this setup, the AgriShack isn't just a grow room. It acts as the central nervous system of the entire farm.
It's the brain.
Yes, it houses the cold storage for harvested goods, the sterile processing areas, and most critically, the AI servers.
And this is where we have to pause.
Yeah, we do.
Because it introduces a wildly counterintuitive concept. Why on earth does a farm need a hardened server rack?
Right. The text introduces us to SEAS, which stands for Sovereign Artificial Intelligence Spaces and the PCDS servers.
Right.
Now, the documents don't explicitly spell out the PCDS acronym. It likely refers to a private cloud data server or some similar proprietary edge computing architecture. But what matters is the function. They specify that this is a hardened mini AI data center securely housed within the AgriShack.
Yeah.
We are not talking about a smart thermostat you control from your phone or like an automated sprinkler timer. This is serious, heavy computing power sitting in a box in a field.
But if you look at the sheer complexity of what that AI is managing, the need for localized compute power becomes completely obvious.
Okay, walk me through that.
Well, the ESLI system is governing a wildly volatile, densely packed biological ecosystem. In a traditional farm, a human being walks out, checks the soil moisture with their finger, looks at the clouds, and decides to turn on a water valve.
Very analog.
Right. But in a closed-loop, hyper-dense indoor system, every single variable is aggressively interconnected.
Give me an example of that interconnectedness. Because to a layperson, growing a plant indoors just means turning on a grow light and adding water.
Okay, let's take their mushroom cultivation, which we will get into deeply in a moment.
Okay.
Imagine the temperature in the mushroom fruiting chamber naturally fluctuates by just 0.5 degrees due to ambient weather outside the AgriShack.
A tiny change.
Tiny. But that tiny temperature shift immediately alters the relative humidity of the room.
Oh, right.
And that humidity shift changes the rate of water condensation on the walls, which alters the bacterial load in the air, which could theoretically trigger a mold outbreak that ruins the entire crop.
Wow, just from half a degree.
Exactly. A human operator simply cannot react fast enough to balance those microfluctuations.
But the AI can.
Exactly. The AI isn't just reacting, it is anticipating. It runs real-time, AI-driven standard operating procedures, SOPs.
So it sees the shift coming.
Right. It senses that 0.5 degree shift via thermal sensors, calculates the impending humidity drop, cross-references the specific biological needs of the mushroom strain, currently in week 2 of its fruiting cycle, and preemptively adjusts a micro-misting system to stabilize the environment before the stress even occurs.
That is insane.
It is constantly solving a multivariable biological equation thousands of times a second to prevent cascading failures.
It really is the conductor of this hyperdense biological orchestra.
Truly.
But here is the detail hidden in the text that absolutely stopped me in my tracks. This on-site AI does not just manage the temperature and the water flow for the farm.
Here we go.
The text explicitly states that this hardened mini data center proactively earns revenue by offering sovereign compute services globally.
It is a spectacular, almost genius-level, dual-purpose utilization of physical infrastructure.
I really struggled to wrap my head around this at first. You're telling me they are selling cloud computing power from a server sitting next to a pile of agricultural waste?
That's exactly what they're doing.
How does that even work practically? Servers generate an immense amount of heat. Malaysia is notoriously hot and humid. Data centers usually require massive energy-intensive cooling systems. How does a farm manage this?
Well, you have to look at the required architecture.
Yeah.
If you're building an AgriShack, you already have to build a highly insulated, climate-controlled, secure structure to house your delicate indoor crops in your control systems, right?
Or you need the box anyway.
Exactly. You already have to provide it with stable power. So Ecoladang looked at this and realized an arbitrage opportunity.
Ah, I see where this is going.
If they are already absorbing the capital expenditure of building a climate-controlled box in the middle of a regenerating field, and they already have to install servers to run the AI, they might as well over-provision the compute power and sell the excess to the global digital market.
So the farm is simultaneously operating as a commercial cloud computing node.
Precisely.
Hmm.
If you're a developer in London or Tokyo, you could literally be training a machine learning model or rendering a heavy 3D video file in the cloud. And the actual physical processing power doing that mathematical work is sitting inside an agri-shack in rural Malaysia right next to a rack of growing mushrooms.
And regarding the heat, I realized this later in a closed-loop system, heat isn't a waste product, it's an input.
Ah, there you go.
Right. If the servers are running hot because they're processing a heavy global workload, the AgriShack's internal HVAC system can capture that thermal energy and redistribute it. Maybe they use it to heat the water for the aquaculture tanks at night, or to maintain the precise incubation temperature for the insect breeding rooms.
That is the beauty of full integration.
It's so smart.
But more importantly, consider the financial floor this creates. It completely redefines the baseline economics of a farm.
How so?
Well, even before a single mushroom is harvested or a single fish is sold, the physical infrastructure itself is generating a steady digital yield.
Oh, wow.
Right? It creates an entirely new revenue stream that is completely decoupled from the chaotic swings of agricultural commodity prices or local weather events.
It is mind-blowing. Okay, so we have this hardened digital brain running the show, balancing the humidity, and selling its extra brain power to the internet on the side. But what is the body of this operation actually producing? Let's zoom into the highly profitable core of the farm, which the documents refer to as Zone A.
Zone A. This is where it gets really dense.
Yeah.
Zone A represents the strictly indoor, highly controlled environments housed within the agri-shack itself.
Okay.
This is where you find the extreme density we mentioned earlier, and it's where the biological loop really begins.
Right. The sources explicitly note that Zone A requires minimal physical space but delivers maximum profit margins. And the very first stage in this indoor core is mushroom farming.
Which is an incredibly intelligent, evolutionarily sound starting point for a circular economy.
Why fungi specifically?
Because fungi are nature's ultimate undisputed recyclers.
Right, exactly. The input for this phase is low-cost, incredibly fibrous agricultural waste. The text specifically highlights palm fronds and bamboo.
Palm fronds, yeah.
For context, Malaysia has a massive, globally dominant palm oil industry. And a byproduct of that industry is millions of tons of waste palm fronds. They are bulky, tough, and generally considered a nuisance.
Just garbage.
Right, just garbage. But Ecoladang takes this waste, sterilizes it, and uses it as the soil, essentially, for cultivating high-value gourmet and medicinal mushrooms.
And the biology of what is happening inside those grow bags is fascinating.
Break that down for us.
Well, if you look at a palm frond or a piece of bamboo, it is incredibly rigid.
Yeah, it's basically wood.
Right. That rigidity comes from complex structural polymers called lignin and cellulose. Most animals and even traditional composting bacteria really struggle to break down lignin quickly. It is basically nature's armor.
Okay.
But fungi have evolved over millions of years to secrete specialized, highly targeted enzymes that act like chemical scissors.
Chemical scissors, I like that.
They can literally tear apart those tough chemical bonds in the lignin. The mycelium of the mushroom is eating the tough agricultural waste that nothing else can digest.
And what they produce from that waste is incredibly lucrative. The text makes a very interesting distinction here, actually.
Oh, about the fooding bodies.
Yeah. It notes that while scientists and researchers love to study the mycelium, that underground root-like network of the fungus, the Ecoladang franchisees focus strictly on cultivating the highly profitable fruiting bodies. We are talking about premium shiitake, lion's mane, and reishi mushrooms.
Yeah, these are not your standard shrink-wrapped white button mushrooms from the local supermarket.
Not at all.
Lion's mane and reishi are high-end nutraceuticals. They are deeply embedded in traditional medicine and are highly sought after in modern supplement markets for cognitive and immune support.
And the wholesale price per kilogram for premium, pristine medicinal mushrooms is astronomical compared to standard crops.
Oh, yeah. And because they are grown inside the highly controlled agri-shack managed by the SA's AI, the franchisee can guarantee a pristine, consistent harvest.
Right, no variables.
There is no need for chemical fungicides or pesticides.
Right.
Because the environment is sealed. That absolute purity is a massive selling point in the premium supplement market.
Totally. And the text also highlights how modular this specific phase can be. An operator doesn't even have to grow the mushrooms to full maturity to make money.
This was a smart pivot.
Right. The documents state that an entire 300 square foot micro farm could be dedicated entirely to the inoculation phase.
The inoculation.
Yes. This is the highly sterile, delicate process of introducing the pure mushroom spores into the sterilized palm frond substrate. It requires absolute laboratory cleanliness so competitive molds don't take over.
Which is hard to do in a normal farm setting.
Exactly. So an operator could just run this sterile lab environment, inoculate the bags, and act as a B2B supply hub. They sell the ready-to-grow, fully colonized mushroom blocks to other local farmers who have the space to fruit them but lack the sterile lab equipment to start them.
It's a great niche. But if the franchisee does fruit the mushrooms themselves, we immediately run into the central law of a closed-loop system. What happens to the waste?
Always the waste.
Right. When you harvest a beautiful lion's mane mushroom, you are left with a heavy block of spent substrate. It's the remains of the palm fronds, heavily broken down and woven through with dead mycelium. You can't just throw it in a landfill.
And that leads us to what the documents call the protein engine. Insect farming.
The bugs.
The bugs. I have to admit, when I read this part, everything clicked for me.
Yeah.
The spent mushroom substrate, along with any discarded unmarketable produce from the farm, becomes the absolute zero-cost food source for an army of insects.
It is a flawless biological handoff.
It really is.
Think about the chain of energy here. The fungi did the heavy lifting. They secreted the enzymes to break down the tough lignin in the palm fronds, which made the remaining nutrients highly bioavailable.
They pre-digested it.
Exactly. Now, the insects can step in and rapidly consume that pre-digested, softened material.
The text specifically mentions two types of insects, black soldier flies, or BSF, and crickets. Now, if you follow agritech at all, black soldier flies are legendary.
They are essentially tiny, incredibly efficient biological incinerators.
They eat everything.
They really do. A colony of black soldier fly larvae can consume staggering amounts of organic waste in a matter of days, converting it directly into high-quality protein and fat biomass within their own bodies.
But here's where it gets really interesting, and where the business acumen of Ecoladang really shines through. The documents detail how franchisees don't just have to grind these insects up into bulk, cheap industrial feed.
Right, they can go high-end.
Exactly. They can pivot into highly specialized premium commercial markets. For example, they can operate as a dedicated grower of live crickets to supply local fishing and tackle shops.
Which is a steady, reliable local cash flow.
Yes. But even wilder, the text talks about implementing specialized gut-loading protocols for the insects.
Ah, gut loading. This is a brilliant high-margin strategy.
Can you explain the mechanics of that for the listener? If I am a franchisee, what does it actually mean to gut load a cricket before I sell it?
Well, when you feed a live insect to a predator, say a reptile, a bird, or a fish, the nutritional value that predator receives isn't just from the insect's exoskeleton or muscle tissue.
Okay.
A massive percentage of the nutritional payload actually comes from whatever is currently sitting undigested in the insect's gastrointestinal tract.
Oh, I see.
So gut loading is the deliberate practice of feeding the insects a highly specific, hyperdense nutritional diet in the 24 to 48 hours immediately before they are harvested or fed out.
You stuff them full of the good stuff.
Exactly. You are essentially using the cricket as a biological capsule, like a Trojan horse, to deliver specific vitamins, minerals, or pigments directly to the final consumer.
And Ecoladang uses this exact technique to produce premium, specialized feed tailored specifically for high-end ornamental pond owners.
The koi market.
Yes. They specifically mention koi enthusiasts. This blew my mind. They aren't just selling a bucket of dried bugs, they are custom tuning the nutritional profile of a live cricket so that a wealthy hobbyist's prize-winning koi fish gets exactly the right ratio of beta-carotene or specific proteins to enhance the vivid red and orange colors of its scales.
The economics of that pivot are just staggering.
Let's trace it, because it is a masterclass in cascading value.
It really is. Follow the dollar. The initial input was a discarded nuisance palm frond, essentially free, if not negatively priced, waste.
Garbage.
Right. Then the AI-managed fungi turn that free waste into a medicinal mushroom that retails for $20 or $30 a pound.
Huge markup.
Then the waste from that highly profitable process is fed to the crickets, meaning the cricket feed costs nothing.
Zero.
Then the operator gut loads those free crickets with specific nutrients and sells them at a massive premium to the luxury ornamental pet market, where hobbyists will happily pay top dollar for specialized koi feed.
Genius.
At every single biological step, the system is extracting high margin value from what the previous step considered garbage.
Wow. Okay, rounding out Zone A, the indoor core, we have hydroponics and specialist crops. Using intensely stacked vertical racks, they utilize the remaining indoor space to grow leafy greens and specialized Chinese herbs for the nutraceutical market.
And hydroponics is famously space and water efficient, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in a closed-loop agri-shack, it goes a step further.
How so?
Well, the text notes this system saves up to 90% of the water compared to traditional soil farming. Why? Because they are completely indoors.
Okay.
When plants transpire, when they sweat water vapor out of their leaves, that moisture hits the air. In a traditional greenhouse, you open the vents, and that water is lost to the atmosphere.
It just evaporates away.
Right. But in the agri-shack, the AI-governed HVAC system dehumidifies the air, captures that transpired water vapor, condenses it back into liquid, and feeds it right back to the hydroponic root.
It literally drinks its own sweat.
Exactly. The water is trapped in an endless loop.
Okay, so that is the incredibly dense, highly profitable, perfectly controlled indoor world of Zone A.
Yes.
But what happens if a franchisee has the capital and the land to deploy the larger acreage command hub? How does this pristine indoor factory interact with the messy, unpredictable outdoor world?
That takes us to Zone B.
Right, Zone B, the extended acreage ecosystem.
This is where the PCDS AI stretches its digital arms outside the confines of the shipping container. It begins to orchestrate a highly integrated 1-acre outdoor biological zone, managing macroscopic animals and complex water systems.
And the first major component of this outdoor hub is advanced aquaculture.
The fish.
The fish. And the biological connection back to Zone A is immediate and vital. What do the fish, shrimp, and crabs in these outdoor tanks eat?
The bugs.
Yes, they directly consume the zero-cost insect meal that was just produced by the black soldier flies and crickets inside the agri-shack.
And we really cannot overstate how important this is to the business model. In any commercial aquaculture operation, feed is the single highest variable operational cost.
It's what kills margins.
It dictates your margins entirely. By generating high-protein, nutrient-dense feed on-site from recycled agricultural waste, Ecoladang effectively eliminates their largest expense category.
That's huge. So they utilize RAS recirculating aquaculture systems to grow high-value aquatic protein. The documents mention premium tilapia and catfish.
Very reliable crops.
But there was one fascinating detail regarding lucrative crustaceans that really highlights the physical flexibility of this system. The text notes that even a standard 300-square-foot agri-shack can be outfitted internally with over 300 individual compartments.
This part is wild.
This highly dense setup serves as a starter system for premium mud crabs or flower crabs.
You really have to stop and visualize the spatial engineering required for that.
It was trying to.
300 individual aquatic compartments inside a 300-square-foot box that is also housing servers, mushrooms, and insects.
They must be stacking these compartments vertically, right? Like a high-rise apartment building for incredibly angry, antisocial crabs.
Precisely. And antisocial is the exact right word. Mud crabs are notoriously territorial and highly cannibalistic.
Oh, lovely.
In traditional aquaculture, you cannot just throw 300 mud crabs into a large pond and expect them to grow. They will tear each other apart until only the biggest one is left. They absolutely must be isolated in individual cells.
Which introduces a massive fluid dynamics and management problem, doesn't it?
Massive. You now have 300 separate microenvironments. The AI must monitor the water quality, the dissolved oxygen levels, the ammonia buildup from waste, and the precise feed delivery for 300 individual cells simultaneously.
Oh my God.
At a vertical stack within a tiny footprint. If the water flow to cell number 142 gets blocked, that crab suffocates in its own waste within hours.
But if you can pull off that engineering feat, the payoff is huge, right?
Enormous.
Because the market for premium live mud crabs in Asia is massive. They are a high-end delicacy. To be able to cultivate them safely in a highly controlled, high-density vertical environment, utilizing zero-cost insect feed generated from palm fronds, I mean, it is an absolute economic home run.
It really is. But the extended Zone B ecosystem isn't just aquatic. It extends to land animals as well.
Yes, it does. This brings us to the integrated livestock, specifically what the documents call avian and legomorph components.
Poultry and rabbits.
Exactly. Now, in traditional high-density commercial farming, chickens and rabbits are kept in static, cramped cages. Their waste piles up directly beneath them.
It's awful.
It becomes a toxic, ammonia-rich biohazard that requires constant mechanical removal and treatment.
Right, in that old model, the animal waste is a concentrated pollution problem, a massive liability, rather than a resource.
But Ecoladang flips this entirely. They don't use static cages. They manage their chickens and rabbits in secure mobile corridors that stretch across the land.
Mobile corridors.
Yes. When I read this, I immediately thought of them as biological Roombas.
Biological Roombas.
They aren't sitting still. They are actively roaming, scratching, and foraging across that recovering 1-acre plot we talked about earlier.
That captures the mechanics perfectly.
Yeah.
You are harnessing their natural evolutionary instincts to scratch the earth, to peck for bugs, to graze on greens, and applying it as a managed agricultural service.
Exactly. The human operators take all the post-harvest scraps from Zone A, the discarded bruised leafy greens from the hydroponics racks, the tough stems from the medicinal mushrooms, and they just toss them out into these secure, moving animal corridors.
Free food for the Roombas.
Right. The chickens and rabbits actively process these scraps. They convert this waste into premium ethical meat and free-range eggs.
And ethical meat is a key term here. The market is increasingly demanding transparency in animal welfare.
People want to know the animals had a good life.
Absolutely. Because these animals are constantly moving onto fresh ground, displaying natural foraging behaviors, and eating a highly diverse diet of fresh agricultural scraps, rather than processed grain pellets, the resulting meat and eggs command a significant premium.
But from an ecological standpoint, their most important job isn't producing eggs. It's what they leave behind.
Yes, the manure. As they roam these corridors, they are constantly dropping highly bioavailable nitrogen-rich manure directly onto the healing soil.
The soil from step one.
Exactly. This is the exact same soil that has been shielded from the sun by the black screens and heavily treated with the porous biochar sponge.
So the chickens are literally acting as precision fertilizer drones. They are deploying exactly the right chemical compounds directly into the microscopic carbon sponge that is waiting below to absorb it.
The synergy is flawless. The waste management problem is completely solved because the animals are distributing it perfectly for free.
Yeah.
The animals get an enriching, diverse diet, and the degraded soil receives exactly the biological kickstart it needs to feed its rebuilding microbiome.
Okay, so to complete this entire outdoor loop, the text details the deployment of vertical bioremediation crops.
Boundary plants.
Right. You have these specific vertical growing plants planted around the perimeter of the 1-acre hub. They serve a dual physical purpose. First, they act as an extension of the black screening, utilizing living biology to cast physical shade over the recovering soil.
But their roots are performing a much more critical, invisible function.
What's that?
They are strategically placed to intercept the hydrology of the farm.
Oh, the water.
Right.
Their deep root systems are designed to soak up and recycle any excess nutrient-rich wastewater coming from the RES fish tanks.
This is a vital ecological safeguard, and it addresses one of the biggest criticisms of commercial aquaculture.
Which is the wastewater, right?
Exactly. Even in a recirculating system, the water eventually becomes heavily loaded with nitrogen, nitrites, and phosphorus from the fish waste. If an operator simply flushes that nutrient-dense water into a local river or groundwater table, it causes massive environmental damage.
Like algae blooms.
Severe algae blooms that choke out native aquatic life.
But Ecoladang ensures zero harmful discharge into the local water tables. They use a process called phytoremediation.
Basically using plants as filters.
Exactly. Those vertical boundary plants act as a living biological filter. They eagerly pull the excess nitrogen and phosphorus out of the wastewater to fuel their own rapid growth. By the time the water passes through their root systems and reaches the natural water table, it has been stripped of the excess nutrients and purified.
It is the final, elegant knot tying the entire closed-loop system together. Nothing is wasted, nothing harmful escapes.
So we have explored this perfect, interlocking biological loop. It is a masterpiece of ecological engineering. But let's step back from the biology and look at the harsh realities of the business world.
Economics.
Agriculture is notoriously brutally victim to market volatility. A drought hits the Midwest, the cost of grain spikes, a global conflict disrupts the fertilizer supply chain, and suddenly a profitable multi-generational farm goes bankrupt overnight.
It happens all the time.
This brings us to our final section, economic resilience, and the business reality. So what does this all mean for the business owner? How does an Ecoladang franchisee survive the chaotic economics of global commodity agriculture?
They survive because they have engineered an unbreakable economic ecosystem that entirely mirrors their biological ecosystem.
How so?
Well, the traditional extractive farm is highly vulnerable because it is almost entirely dependent on external inputs. As a traditional farmer, you must buy petroleum-based synthetic fertilizer. You must buy truckloads of commercial animal feed. You must buy grid electricity to run your pumps.
Right, you're buying everything from the outside.
If macroeconomic forces cause the price of any of those inputs to triple, your profit margin instantly vanishes and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. You are a hostage to the supply chain.
But the Ecoladang model actively severs those external dependencies. The answer to their resilience lies in how every single waste stream is monetized into an input.
Precisely. Let's look at the operational costs. Energy. They generate their own clean power by utilizing the biomass gasification and pyrolysis systems mentioned in their service menus, burning local agricultural waste,
Free power.
fertilizer, the biochar and the foraging animals generated on-site for free, animal feed. The fungi and the black soldier flies convert waste into premium feed.
So they don't buy anything.
Exactly. Because the franchise operator produces their own inputs, they are virtually shielded from external supply chain shocks. If a global crisis causes the price of commercial fish meal to skyrocket, the Ecoladang farmer is completely unaffected. Their black soldier flies are still happily eating spent palm fronds for free.
They are completely insulated from global market panic.
Totally insulated.
And the sources note that their deep product diversification protects their revenue side, too. They are not a monoculture farm betting their entire year on the price of corn.
Right, they have multiple streams.
If the market price for one specific commodity drops, say, the wholesale price of tilapia takes a hit, the overall business remains stable because the other commodities compensate. They are still selling high-margin premium koi feed, expensive medicinal mushrooms, ethical free-range eggs, Chinese nutraceutical herbs, and of course, global cloud computing power.
They are economically insulated from almost every single angle.
It's incredibly robust.
When every waste stream is a monetized input and your revenue is spread across diverse, high-value markets, you have achieved true economic resilience.
Now, looking at the corporate and digital architecture behind all this, the documents provide some very clear, strict operational realities. Ecoladang Microfarms trades under the corporate entity MyDatasys SDN BHD, which is headquartered in Monkiara, Kuala Lumpur.
And there is a very important explicitly stated legal disclaimer in the text that we must highlight for anyone analyzing this operation.
Yes, absolutely. The text goes out of its way to clarify the legal nature of engaging with them. It explicitly states that Ecoladang is a commercial agrotech franchise operator. If you engage with them, you are entering into a commercial transaction to purchase physical corporate business assets. The agri-shacks, the servers, the biological systems, which are then managed under private commercial service contracts.
It is not an investment scheme.
Exactly. It is not a public solicitation of capital, and it is strictly not an invitation to purchase securities or collective investment schemes under the Malaysian Capital Markets and Services Act 2007.
It is a vital legal distinction. You are buying heavy farming equipment and a commercial operating license to run a business. You are not buying a passive financial stock or an unregulated investment contract. You own the physical means of production.
The text also briefly mentions the integration of blockchain technology. Now, whenever people hear blockchain, they immediately think of volatile cryptocurrencies or speculative tokens.
That's still, yeah.
But the text is very careful to clarify how they use it. They state they refer strictly to internal enterprise utility ledgers.
Right. They are using the underlying architecture of blockchain, which is simply a decentralized, immutable, unchangeable ledger for practical business operations.
They use it for transparent supply chain auditing and B2B operational accounting. I mean, think about how complex this farm is.
Oh, it's intensely complex.
The AI needs to track every single gram of insect feed produced, every single reishi mushroom harvested, the temperature of every mud crab cell, and every kilowatt of server power sold.
That's a lot of data.
By logging these operational metrics onto an immutable enterprise blockchain, the corporate hub can seamlessly manage the accounting and the supply chain tracking across dozens of franchisees without any data discrepancies or manual auditing errors. It is an operational tool, not a financial speculation tool.
Which brings us to a really sharp, fascinating thematic connection hidden at the very end of the documents, in the fine print of their website policies.
Oh, the data sovereignty notice. Yes, I love this parallel.
If you look at the privacy policy and cookie notice on their website, it is incredibly strict, almost militant.
Like, they don't track anything.
Exactly, they state. We only use essential functional cookies. We never host tracking pixels or sell your data. They explicitly list the basic tools they use, like the PAL language cookie, which just remembers what language you prefer to read the site in, or the PVC visits cookie, which just prevents a user from artificially inflating the view count on a blog post.
Right, they're aggressively protective of data privacy. They totally refuse to participate in the data extraction economy.
But think about why that matters conceptually.
Yeah.
This digital philosophy of closed-loop privacy, of zero data leakage and absolute self-reliance, perfectly mirrors their physical agricultural philosophy.
Oh, I see.
Right. In the real world, they practice closed-loop farming. They refuse to extract from the earth, they ensure zero nutrient leakage into the rivers, and they rely absolutely on their own internal biological inputs. In the digital world, they practice closed-loop data management. They refuse to extract user data, they ensure zero data leakage to third-party advertisers, and they rely strictly on their own functional metrics. The architecture of their software is a direct philosophical reflection of the architecture of their farms.
It is absolute sovereignty across the board: food sovereignty, energy sovereignty, and data sovereignty. It is a beautifully cohesive, uncompromising philosophy.
It truly is.
Mhm.
It is rare to see a company align its digital ethics so perfectly with its physical operations.
Well, we have covered an incredible amount of ground today. To quickly recap the journey we've taken, we started with a dead, cracked, barren patch of tropical soil.
Just dirt.
We shielded it from the sun, we injected it with a microscopic biochar sponge, and we deployed an AI-managed agri-shack.
Yep.
We watched tough, fibrous palm fronds get chemically digested by high-value medicinal mushrooms. We saw the spent waste of those mushrooms power a protein engine of insects, which were then custom gut-loaded to produce premium koi food.
A perfect loop.
We watched biological Roombas chickens and rabbits actively heal the soil with their precision foraging. And we watched the entire operation insulate itself from market crashes and pay for itself, not just through agriculture, but by quietly selling global cloud compute power from a server rack sitting right in the middle of a regenerating field.
We witnessed the transition from absolute ecological depletion to absolute biological and economic abundance, all managed within a single, highly engineered nomadic cycle.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to ponder.
We usually think of technology and nature as inherently opposing forces.
Right, like they're enemies.
The classic cynical image of human progress is the massive concrete data center paving over the meadow. It is the silicon violently displacing the soil. But imagine a future where the exact opposite is true.
What if we flip it?
What if the massive, insatiable global demand for AI compute power, the need to process algorithms and render graphics, could actually become the financial engine that funds a swarm of nomadic, robotic microfarms?
That is such a cool idea.
Imagine these agri-shacks slowly crawling across the world's most degraded, ruined lands, funded entirely by our digital needs, yet leaving behind rich, teeming soil and thriving, clean ecosystems in their wake. Next time you use a cloud service or ask an AI a question, ask yourself, what is the physical footprint of the servers processing your request? And could they be terraforming the Earth instead of just taking from it?
It is an incredibly hopeful vision of the future. A massive thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep asking those big questions, keep exploring the mechanisms of the world, and always look for those hidden, fascinating connections around you. We will catch you next time.